Good afternoon, good evening, and early morning for the people joining across the time zones. My name is Manoj, and I'm going to present today about the innovation and entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining and taking a time out of this particular study. I am really happy that all of you have decided to join this particular webinar and learn something about innovation and entrepreneurship, which is an buzzword today. Uh, I have a very close and a deep relationship with innovation and entrepreneurship throughout my professional journey as well as a personal journey. I have been an innovator and entrepreneur. I have close to 15 patents as a part of an innovation. Did one corporate startup where within the boundaries of a corporate try to launch in a startup. Was successful at that and then handed over to the business unit to really scale it up further. Additionally, I am pursuing my MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship from HEC Paris, which is world's #2 business school on the topic of management, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So this topic is close to my heart, and I thought that let's share some of the the basic knowledge about innovation and entrepreneurship with my fellow scholars here at the Udacity. I am just like you, one of the winners of the scholarship uh, challenge, and finished my course and thought in this particular study jam. Let's talk about the innovation entrepreneurship, which is ultimately the backbone and fueling the lot of ML related applications and startups and things like this. And the field has a lot of the misconceptions, misunderstandings, and interchangeable words which people use it without properly understanding and you know articulating it properly. And at the end it happens that the conversations becomes highly confusing, and a lot of people feels that okay, the other party doesn't know a thing or two about what they're talking. So understanding the language and the differences, the subtle differences, is the key aspect of this topic. So let's begin. Okay. There are four words which are written here: invention, innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup. And all of them have a separate and a different meanings. Invention is all about finding something new. Innovation is making this new thing, giving it a value, and see that how we can make money out of it. Entrepreneurship is taking this innovation to the market and actually making it a money. That's an art. And startup is an organization or a vehicle which you use it to carry out your entrepreneurship, where you take your invention, convert it to the innovation, and take it to the market. This is the subtle difference which is there. And I have seen people use all these things interchangeably and differently. But there is a kind of a difference. The typical flow which exists is that you have a wish or imagination, and that would be your idea. What happens with an invention is that from that idea phase, you actually, bring your creativity, you check the feasibility, and then it becomes an invention. For an example, that imagine that Netflix started. They had let me take another example, Spotify. They had an idea that how we can be different if we can give a highly personalized, the music to our users. That could make us a difference, and that was their vision, imagination. What did they do? They used different ML and AI algorithms to and use a lot of creativity, obviously, in that particular process to check the feasibility whether they are in a position to really uh, come up with a customized and personalized music list. That became their invention. What they did after that is that in the phase of an innovationship, you check the viability, which is the business aspect, and you check about the entrepreneurship. That means your own skill set to take this particular invention to the market to solve the need of a customer and make money out of it. what Spotify did here is that they say that, okay, now they have a really good, algorithms. Then they said that, how can we make money on top of that? And that's where that invention turned into the innovation. They say that if you are in a premium customers, we will have a highly customized and very, very specific, the music list curated for you using our AI and ML algorithm. Obviously, there are no people sitting who is asking you the question, looking into your behaviors and creating this list. There is an AI and ML algorithms which are creating that particular things. And then from that innovation, they tried it at a small scale, it worked, and then they converted into the business where they have shown that a lot of customers desire this kind of features, and they have shown their leadership in their own category with that particular startup and the business idea. So this is how the typical flow happens. And when you understand this particular aspect, that you have an idea, you go to the invention, then you go to the innovation, and then you jump into the startup. This is a way of a logical thinking. There is no time connotation with respect to this. What does mean is that it is also possible that you can come up first with an innovation. That means there is a business need, and now you are searching for the idea. And for that particular idea, you can come up with a novel idea and invention with respect to this, and then jump into the business. And that means this cycle is not linear. You can enter at any point of time, but essentially these are the 4 different stages and typical flow that you have. And what I have seen is that a lot of people have this particular typical flow where, especially in the entrepreneurship and startup community, is that they have this particular idea, they have this vision, imagination, which they believe strongly. Then they work it out to create a prototype and look at the feasibility. They take this prototype or POC to the customers to see whether there is really a viability option and desirability, and then they scale on top of this particular part. So that's how they really go into this aspect. Now, the most important part is that innovation is going to be the turning and pivotal point, because it's a culmination of your idea, invention, uh, to the final stage where your idea and your invention will face the customer and the demand of the market. So let's look into the innovation part, and then later we'll look into the entrepreneurship part. But innovation is one of the very important parts here. Steve Jobs famously said that innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. So in his own words, it is that the innovation is who can first bring a new idea to the market, and not necessarily that the new idea belongs to the person who is bringing to the market. Because as you are aware, Apple was not first at inventing a lot of things, but Apple was first at innovation and bringing those products to the customers. So that's why there is a huge difference between invention and innovation. Apple is a really good innovative company, but Apple is not as good inventive company as you would like to believe. A lot of things which Apple has did was invented somewhere else. Generally, in the innovation landscape, we divide the innovations into 4 different categories. And those categories are based upon the 2x2 matrix, where on the x-axis you have the technical things, whether it is technologically normal or technologically novel, or on the y-axis you have the business related aspect, whether it is about the existing business or the new business. So this gives you the 2x2 kind of a matrix, where on the lower left part you have a routine things, which is with respect to you are trying to doing an incremental innovation in your existing market. And there are some great examples given. One is the next generation BMW 3 Series vehicle. Again, it says that it's BMW 3 Series, which is established and it's the next generation. So it's just an incremental thing. On the other on the same line, within your existing market, if you're trying to do something really, really new in terms of a technology, where you're bringing a really new technology into the existing market, that's where it becomes a radical kind of an innovations. For an example, jet engines. The entire jet technology, which was introduced into the aircraft manufacturing process, was kind of a radical for them. Biotechnology companies, where they are trying to invent new and new medicines, that becomes kind of a radical. Now, other side, we have a disruptive ones, which is like new business models are being built, but there is no significant technology, underlying technology changes. Ride-sharing services like Uber and all of them is a new business model, but they don't require such a new technology. However, when the robot taxi comes, which are with respect to the autonomous cars who are providing a ride sharing, that's where you move into the top right corner, which are the architectural one, where you are getting into the new business models along with a new technology. Personalized medicine is one of the examples. Robotaxi is another example. So this is a broad way of understanding about all the different kind of an innovation landscape, which helps to really classify them and understand that where you want to play. If you're coming up within a deep tech kind of a startup or innovation, they are generally radical. If you are coming up within a highly platform related and market centric things, they are generally the disruptive. So either people enter into the disruptive or a radical, the startups, and then they try to see that how they can gradually move towards architectural innovation. That means they can take their disruptive business model and add some technology things to make it architectural, like the robotaxis. Or on the other side, on the radical side, where you are trying to come up with a new molecules, and now you are trying to personalize this molecule for the delivery of a personalized medicine, and then it becomes architectural. So these are the two places where either the startups enter and land up into the architectural things. This is a good landscape to keep it in mind. However, there are another thing is also which you have to keep it in mind, that the innovation happens at 4 different levels: at product level, at process level, at organization level, and marketing level. Apple's phone is a kind of a product innovation where there are a lot of new and significant products and services were introduced. Process related innovation is the assembly line manufacturing is in a classic case of a process innovation, where there are new processes were involved in order for manufacturing, logistics, and distribution. Now, organization innovation is something that we try to bring into the new practices and other aspects to make the organization more focused towards work on certain things. Agile is a kind of an organizational innovation practices. And then there is a marketing related aspects, which are with respect to new marketing methods for product package, design, price, where essentially this marketing is also the business model innovation here. So that's how this entire landscape is divided into the types of an innovation also. Going forward, for any companies, when they talk about the innovation, there are 10 types of an innovation, or there are 10 touch points of an innovation that you can do via product, process, organization, or marketing innovation, disruptive or architectural or radical kind of thing. And here are the processes which are listed with respect to the finance related things, process aspects, offerings, and delivery. And this is a good framework to keep it in mind when you really classify that where you want to do innovation and how will your innovation have a difference in terms of offerings. Now, today's world of innovation is that the products are visible to the customers. And there are various ways with respect to product innovation. Either you can bring a new product, or you can improve the product, or you can get into the new feature of this. A process is generally visible within an organization, and nobody knows outside the organization if there are process related things which happen, like changes in equipments, like you are changing your assembly line and putting up an automatic robots to do that particular thing. That's a process innovation. There are changes in methods and tools. For an example, you are now started using an agile methodologies and tools. Your customer might not know that you are using that, but they will certainly see the impact of that particular thing. And there are changes in the technology. For an example, we are going into the processors and we are moving from different manufacturing capabilities of 12 nanometer to 7 nanometer in the semiconductor chips to make them faster. And then there are business models which are experienced by customers. And this is where we talk about how the products, services are brought to the market and how to make money from it. So essentially, products are visible to the customers. Processes are visible only within organization, but impacted felt at the customer side. And business models are being experienced by the customers. And the great example here is that the Uber has a business model and you experience the ride, but they don't have the product because the car which they are using, which is considered as a product, is from any other OEM. So this is the today's world of an innovation that we see from the landscape. The next is that you might ask that if I want to be the innovator, what will be the method and what are the key activities that I can really think of? So this is again proven, and this is one of the way to look at how the innovators method works, is that you have an insight, that is your wish, imagination, from your experience, you gather certain insight, which is there. Based upon that, you see that what is the problem that you want to solve. From that problem, you come to the solution, and from that solution, you come to the business model, and then you scale it at the end. Now, the key activities is that the insight is all about savoring surprises, continuously doing observations, looking into the customer experiences and finding out that what are their needs and desires. And once you understand that particular insight, you next step in the problem, you discover what is the job to be done. People don't buy TV. What they buy is an experience to watch that TV. And there, the job to be done is to seek a pleasure and experience of a world via sitting inside their home. And TV is just a medium. And if you have this kind of a job to be done, then a TV is just the one way. Internet enabled TV is the second. Your personal computer and laptop is in a third, which can solve the same particular problem. So this is an insight that you have once you understand what is a job to be done. And based upon that, you can come up with various solutions. Now, in the case of an Uber, the job to be done was to go from point A to B. And to do this, either you can own your car and do it, or you can ask someone to take you from point A to B and you pay for that particular problem. So that is a kind of a solution. And then the business model, you validate your go-to-market related topics here. So this is an overall is a very, very good way and a neat way to keep the things in the mind, that with this innovators method, you can clearly see that you want to do the, you really want to do the innovation at what level, at product, process, or business model, at what different touch points, by using your process, product, business model, organization, and at four different levels like architectural, radical, and disruptive. So combining all these things, it gives you the enough vocabulary to talk about your innovative approaches, your innovative products, and your innovative solutions, and how you would like to take it to the market. And this makes it other people to clearly understand that what you are doing. And at the same time, it helps you to secure necessary funding, find a proper partner for your startup, find a proper mentor for your startup, because you will be able to explain them in a detail that what you really want to do, how you really want to do, where it will have an impact, and which are the mechanisms that you want to take it up. So this is about innovation with respect to this. And Megan Smith finally told a very interesting thing, that despite of all these processes and everything together, right, it's all about innovation comes out of a great human ingenuity and very personal passions. It is highly personalized and it is highly uh, uh, subjective to the person and comes from their own ingenuity. However, all these processes and everything that we have discussed, it helps you to structure your ingenuity and your passion in a proper way, so that it doesn't die down with you, but it kindles a lot of a fire with all of your stakeholders and helps you to gain a momentum further. So this is about an innovation. I'm going to start with respect to entrepreneurship after this, but if you guys have any questions, we can take a small 2 or 3 minute break here, and anybody has a question, they can unmute and ask a question. So floor is open, guys, if you have any question. Okay. If you don't want to ask a question, you can also type a question if you have. So I will wait for the next 10-15 seconds if there is no question pops up, then we'll move to the next part, which is entrepreneurship.
Are there any techniques to come out with innovation? For example,
Yes.
any methodology?
In today's world, majority of the people will give you the answer of when you ask this question is that design thinking is the one thing. So design thinking is in one methodology. However, there are many other ones. Design thinking is today highly pervasive because of its touching point with customer focus and market pull. But there are ways when, let's say that if you are coming up with a technology intensive innovation, let's say you are a pharma company who has invented a new drug and now you want to take it to the market. Now, in those cases, the design thinking doesn't serve holistically well. In those cases, you have to look for the other ways, which is which are the technology maturity cycles. How you can take the technology to the mature phase, and once the technology is mature, how you can launch it into the market. And there again, it's going to be the risky. So, one aspect, market pull side, a customer centric B2C or B2B, you can use design thinking. And in other cases where it is in a technologically focused and technology led, you have to use a different kind of methods there. So that is a one specific answer.
Okay.
The next question I see is there on the chat is it a good idea to accept angel funding? That is highly personal and highly specific question. However, according to me, it all depends upon my funding needs. If I have the family, friends, and fools have given me enough funding, and which I can go through that particular stage and directly jump into the Series A, I will not look for the angel funding. However, in some cases, I do not have an ability to raise enough funding, and I look into the angel funding as in a way to really build a first prototype so that my Series A is really good in terms of that. And personally, seeding a startup is also another way, which you have already mentioned there. It all depends your financial risk and your financial exposures. Sometimes it is there are companies who are completely funded by the founders, never took Series A, B, or C, and directly jumped into the IPO, and they had a great success. And we have in a lot of other cases where the people go through the systematically, series by series stages, and then later they jump into the IPO. So those are the kind of methods which are there. And there is no golden answer, because if there would have been golden answers, we wouldn't have so many venture capitalists, so many angel fundings, and so many startups, trying and testing with different methodologies. So that would be my answer here with respect to this. So thank you for asking question. We will move to the next stage, which is entrepreneurship. I have put up a logo of a rocket. Entrepreneurship is essentially your rocket, and your innovation is the fuel to that rocket. You can have an excellent innovation, but if you do not have a proper rocket or proper vehicle as an entrepreneurship and the organization, it is destined to fail. Other way around is if you have the poor innovation and kind of a poor invention. However, if you have a really good entrepreneurship and market skills, you can be really, really successful. And as happens with any rocket programs, the very first rocket is very rarely successful. It is over the period of time that by doing in a multiple attempts, you learn from each and every rocket launch that what goes right and what goes wrong. It's the same case with entrepreneurship. It's a journey of exploration where there are a lot of learnings, setbacks, and if you are persistent enough to learn from them and improve, you will have a success. Airbnb is one of the great example of that. They launched 4 times, failed 4 times, and the 5th times they were successful when they really understood that what the market needs and all this thing. So entrepreneurship is essentially the rocket program for you. And yeah, you don't have to be the rocket scientist to launch a rocket. You can hire always a rocket scientist, just like what Elon Musk did. He's not a rocket scientist, but he has a SpaceX, which is putting the the astronauts into the International Space Station, and he just hired the rocket scientist out of the blue. So what he demonstrated is an entrepreneurship there, and not the innovation kind of things. So I there are many definitions of an entrepreneur, but this is the one I really like, which is from the These, which was published in the Economy magazine in 2001, which says the entrepreneurs are innovative, opportunity oriented, resourceful, value creating change agents. Let's map this case in terms of Elon Musk SpaceX. You have, he was innovative. Yes, he was innovative. He figured out that there is a need where is going to be the next space race. Uh, so he figured out that he can build a company, and that was the innovation that he brought in terms of a business model and the other aspects. He was opportunity oriented when he realized that the US space program is falling behind and government is still funding a NASA. There is a huge opportunity for private players to go in. So he sought that all the opportunities. He was resourceful. He figured out that how he can get all of this, the rocket scientists together to build those rockets. So he was resourceful, and he has created a huge value by bringing this SpaceX and changing the way the space programs runs from public funding to the private funding. This is just one of the examples of an entrepreneurship. Looking into the India with a case of an Baiju, which is an education startup, where there also you see that the founder was innovative. He was one of the first to launch online tuition classes. He was opportunity oriented. He realized that there is a huge opportunity in this particular space. He was having an education related background and not the technology background, but he was resourceful enough to gather the set of people who can build this entire platform. He has created an immense value for himself as well as for the students, teachers, and the community around. And he has successfully changed the way that the Indian education, online education system looks like for the primary and secondary students. So this is another way that we call them as an entrepreneur, because they fit into this kind of a definition. The other definition, which is quite funny, is that entrepreneur is a one who jumps off of the cliff, and while he is falling, he or she builds an entire plane to ensure that they don't crash, and then they launch from that particular point. So there are many definitions, but just keep it in mind that entrepreneurship is a little different. It is not about managing, it is about building and leading and ensuring that you are changing the ecosystem around you and building a lot of value for them. There are many type of entrepreneurs, and generally in today's world, when we look at the entrepreneurs, we think that the guys like Elon Musk, guys like Steve Jobs are the entrepreneurs, but that's not the truth. There are a lot many different types of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the, like here you can say that they are the innovators, they are hustlers, imitators, researchers, money magnets, prodigies, buyer, solopreneurs, short-termists, rebels. And they are divided into the spectrum of innovative and conservatism aspects. A guy who is opening a small shop in your neighborhood is also an entrepreneur, in a sense that he has also recognized an opportunity to do a business. He was resourceful to get all the necessary artifacts to launch that particular business, a small business around you, and he was able to bring in a value, because now you can get things in your neighborhood which you would have in the past would have gone somewhere else to get it. So entrepreneurs can also work in a very conservative fashion, and they can still be the entrepreneurs. On the other hand, we have the innovators. I do not like this classification, however I put it up today, because I consider that everyone given a chance would be entrepreneur, and they will try to do what is the best that they think that they would like to do. However, in the industry and in the places in the venture capital, they generally classify entrepreneurs to know that what is the strength. And they see that whether your team, the co-founding team, has different personality of entrepreneurs to ensure holistically you are good. For an example, a researcher and kind of an entrepreneur is good to be clubbed along with somebody who is a money magnet. That means the researchers can bring that kind of a research-oriented, the entrepreneurship, while the money magnet can bring in a finance aspect of it. And those are the kind of things that the venture capitalists and guys look into when they look into the team. And this is their mental model to do the classifications of the entrepreneurs. However, I do not fully subscribe to it because there are limitations. The moment we start putting the people into the category, we will be, getting into the prejudice and bias with respect to this. So I suggest that even if you try to take a look at this kind of models, look at with a pinch of an salt and always use your own judgment. Across all this kind of a category of entrepreneurs, there is a one interesting aspect which remains common and which we call it as a mindset. Now, entrepreneurial mindset is essentially a effectual thinking mindset. What does this mean? Here is a very good, the flow diagram that I refer it, is that entrepreneur starts with a means. That means the bird in hand. Means is that who I am, what I know, and who I know. From that, they go into the goals that what can I do. From this, what can I do? They try to interact with people that they know, and they try to get a stakeholder commitments. And during the stakeholder commitments and all these particular things, they find out a newer means. That means that they can expand the cycle of resources. They go back to the what I know, who I know, and find this, run through this entire cycle. Otherwise, if they, let's say they find a newer goal during these discussions with the people, they go and again start with a new goals. And if they, during this interaction, if they cannot find any commitment or they cannot find any attraction, they put that opportunity onto the hold in general. And all this thing happens into the change in the environment where the means are changing and constraints are changing. And if you are successful with all these new goals, definitions, and all this particular thing, you end up generating new firms, new products, and new markets. So there are 5 aspects of this particular effectual thinking, which is means bird in hand. What I really have, I value more, rather than thinking what I will have it in future and base my decisions on what I will get it in the future or procrastinate based upon that. Second thing is that what are the affordable losses? This is a very interesting mindset. They look at the focus on the downside. What is the worst that can happen if I launch this startup or if I launch my business? Can I have sufficient money to or sufficient resources? So even though that I suffer a loss, it is affordable. They believe in a co-creation, that is a partnerships for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is to reduce the risk. Second is to get the newer resources. Third is to get more expertise and a lot of things. And they leverage contingencies. That means when the life gives you a lemon, you make a lemonade. That is a famous example. That means they leverage contingencies. They don't, hog down by the contingencies or the bad experiences. They try to learn from it and leverage from it. And the fourth one is that they have a worldview where they work more towards on the control aspect than the prediction. That means prediction is all about thinking about the future and say that what I will do it in the future. And control is the today, that what I'm supposed to do today and how I'll make a maximum out of it. So this is the effectual thinking elements, which are different from the normal thinking patterns when you go into the entrepreneurship mindset here. Now, as an entrepreneurship and all these aspects which you have discussed, what are the 3 interesting things that you can do to ensure that you get into this entire zone of an innovation entrepreneurship? And the very first thing is that learning. I suggest that there is a free course on the Udacity, which is by the Steve Blank, which is a father of this business model innovation and the teacher of an Eric Rice, who has written a book on to the lean startup. So there is a course by him, which is free here on the Udacity. You can take that course to understand the things in detail. You can read Innovators Dilemma book, which is by Clayton Christian, and another one is a Lean Startup by Eric Rice. And learn one of the totally different skills from your normal things like photography, calligraphy, theater, music, things like this, which stimulates your other part of a brain, which is not engaged in your day-to-day activities. And this helps you to do the divergent thinking, look at the things from the different perspective. So I suggest that you can do learning there. Other set of an activity is that you can find in a mentors, like this journey, like any other journey. You will have a learnings by falling on your own, or you can take an help of a mentor who can tell you the obvious pitfalls which you can avoid, and really go systematically and increase your chances of a success and reduce some of the obvious failures. So you can find a mentor. So it is easy to find a mentor, but difficult to continue with the mentorship. This is my experience that I have seen. You can find some generally I see that you can find a technical mentor or a business mentor or a peer mentor, depend upon where you want to focus on. I always start with a peer mentor, and then based upon your skill set and all these things, you can see that whether you want a technical mentor or you want a business mentor on whichever field that you are actually looking into. And the third thing that you can do is the work. I see that everyone is working into the either the students or a teacher or a professional. You can take your idea and try to convert it into the business model first and then products. Get a feedback on your ideas, participate openly into the hackathon, which is tech and business, anything. And keep trying on to the multiple ideas. And sometimes taking a startup internship is possible. If you combine these three things, the learnings, the mentorship, and the work-related aspect by working on these things, it is very easy to get into this zone of an innovation entrepreneurship, which is essentially your mindset. And once you have this particular mindset, it becomes easier to scale into and apply into the any field that you are working on. At the end, I just want to share my experience. Though it looks very hard from the outside, it's not that hard. However, it is going to be the testing times. It will be the testing time with respect to your physical ability, mental ability, emotionals, and relationships. I have seen many startup mentors suffering onto the mental, emotionals, and the relationship and physical aspects because they don't take care of all these things. But this is the experience that it's going to be the testing times. You have to focus on all these aspects because ultimately you are a human is a culmination of all these things and not only your innovation entrepreneurship. The third aspect is that you can learn from everything from everywhere at all times. I participated in this Udacity challenge to see that what I can learn newly from the 10,000 people who are there. And Slack is a great way to communicate and engage into the conversation where I can learn from different perspectives from everyone at all times. So my whole motivation to participate into this Udacity is to learn from a lot of different people here. Go outside of the building and talk to your customers. That means if you think that this is the idea that will benefit this set of customers, go and directly talk to them. It will give you a very interesting perspective because what you think is the problem might not be their actual problem. It is just the manifestation of some other problem. And this engagement and discussion within a customer gives you the even more and deeper insights. Talking versus doing is a huge difference. I have covered the innovation and entrepreneurship in this short webinar of 145 minutes, which is a talking, which is the easier part, but doing all that aspects is a little different. And I can say it because I'm working on one of the topic within my organization for 2 years, from the day first that it was incepted to the incubated. And we are still at the phase where we have just finished defining that what will be our product. And we were just discussing about the other aspects of the customers, what kind of technology to go in, what really customer wants and things like this. Ego is your enemy. That means you don't have to have an ego that you know everything. Obviously, no one knows everything. But if you have this attitude that I know everything, it is going to be detrimental in any journey. And this is the most controversial thing, that your initial idea is most probably wrong. Because the initial idea that you come up out with is generally your imagination and the wish. And when it hits the reality, it has to go for the rain check. Seek help actively. Asking for the help isn't a indication that you know your limitations, you know what you want to do, and respect everything. And at the end, the joy of discovery is speechless. When you discover something new, right? That joy is unparalleled. And at the end, if you go through this journey, you will really love it. Is what I can say. So, India's former President Pranab Mukherjee said a very interesting thing: inspires others rather than wait to be inspired. You can daily do small activities and other things differently, demonstrate your innovation skills and entrepreneurship mindset, and you can inspire others around you. And the last, innovation is inspiration plus perspiration plus perseverance. All of this, the human nature and the creativity and the skills that actually gets it. So with that, thank you for this listening to me for this entire session. And if you have any questions, I'm open to the questions. So if you have any questions, ask a question. Additional thing that I want to put up here is that you can give your feedback about the session on the mentimeter.com. That means you can go to the menti.com and use this code to give feedback about the session. And while you are giving your feedback, if you have any questions, I am open to it. So you can unmute and you can ask a question and we can engage into the discussions. Meanwhile, don't forget to give a feedback here. And as I told, the session is being recorded. We will share the link of the session as well as the recording and the presentation with all of you. I am receiving a lot of accolade onto the chat. So thank you for that particular thing. I really appreciate if you also give a feedback on the mentimeter.com. Meanwhile. Yeah, I'm here for the questions session. So please ask a question. Parvati, yes, the PPT will be shared. Hassan, the presentation will also be shared at the end. Tejaswini, you asked that where we can find a startup internship. I think if you go to the LinkedIn, all the startups are putting their requirements for the internship. Or in other cases, if you find that there are certain startups that you would like to go and work with, you can directly approach them. And I've seen this direct approach generally works with startups. Yeah, any other question? Guys, you will be giving a feedback here onto the mentimeter.com. Okay, the 4 people have given a feedback. So please, what courses do you recommend for innovation and entrepreneurship? Okay, so as I've already mentioned, that one of the starting things I really recommend is the Steve Blank's course on the business model thing, which gives the holistic aspect of innovation and entrepreneurship at the first. And then the later, if you want to go into the very specific, I recommend that my alma mater, HSC Paris, has a lot of online courses onto the Coursera, where you can actually go and see the very specific topics. So in my MSc program on innovation and entrepreneurship, we have learned in close to like 20 courses as a whole. And each highlights a different kind of aspects. So Kishore, that's an answer for you. The short form M says that, are you more of a biz or a tech mentor? So I mentor in both the fields. I am a mentor for the startups, also officially nominated by Niti Aayog, which is India's think tank, government think tank for the startups and innovation. Yeah, so I do it for both the business and as well as the technology. But in technology, I only choose a very specific technology that I really focus on to mentor on. Business, I do very generic business mentoring. Sujata, you have asked a question that what is the difference between innovation and transformation? Okay, it's a very interesting question, and there is generally not so difference with respect to innovation and transformation. If you look at the transformation is generally the way that the organizations are innovated in terms of the way they work, that means their processes, the way they would like to work with their future products and services, that's a product innovation. The way they would like to engage with customers by using a different business model. So different business model innovation which comes in. So all in all, transformation is at the organization level that you want to transform the way you bring the new products, the way you process the lot of information internally with respect to products, manufacturing and things, and the way you interact with the customers. This is the external facing transformation, while the internal facing transformation is that you reduce the hierarchies and things like this. That's are the part of organizational innovations. So transformation is in a whole covers all the four different types of an innovation. So yeah, so I hope that answers.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we have 19 people and I see only the 7 people have given a feedback. So I encourage you, all of you, to again give me the feedback, and hope that the session was really helpful for all of you. So I will stop recording this session now and still keep the screen on, so that if any one of you would like to give a feedback, you can give a feedback on the session here.